begin chapter 1 this week. Hope you had a good week last week. First of all, I want to thank the 4 folks who've posted on the discussion board, Ms. Young, Ms. Trejo, Mr. Thomas, and Mr. Goza. If I pronounce your names incorrectly, please let me know. I see that you guys have introduced yourself. Thank you very much. It's great to see that you're all 4 of you are from different states. I love getting input from different states. And it was nice to meet you. To everybody else, get on the discussion board. Post an intro. You know, if you have technical difficulties, I put it in the announcement. If something's gone awry or something's changed, you're not taking this class anymore, or anything else, just zap me an email. Give me a heads up what's going on. I'm going to keep steamrolling ahead. I'm going to try and post the materials and the video a few days ahead of time. We had a short week and a long weekend this weekend, so in the future we'll just get on to a regular schedule. So anyway, thanks. It was nice to meet you guys. I can't wait to meet everybody else. All right, let's move on. Right. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about the U.S. Constitution and its vital importance in the United States government, both for the private citizen and the public as a whole. I've included 2 links on the external links section of the class. One is just a full text, the entire Constitution from start to finish, and the other link, which is to Cornell University's Legal Institute, which is, by the way, probably it's been the greatest resource for the longest time. That breaks up the Constitution into the different sections. It also has annotations which explain the different sections as you can go along. The importance of the Constitution cannot be understated at all. Everybody knows it does take up full semester classes, volumes and volumes of books, and as well it should. It's I consider the most vital document ever written. It's sustained our government and our democracy for well over 200 years. I don't think it's perfect, but I do think it is a phenomenal work that continues to adjust, adapt, and amaze everyone both here and abroad. I'm going to keep going back to the Constitution for several concepts, obviously in Chapter 1, but throughout the course, as well as frankly, throughout any course for paralegal studies, you could really point back to the Constitution as at least a piece of the foundation. And I can't encourage you enough to read the Constitution. It's the most important piece of paper, I think, on the planet. So, okay, we're gonna dive into Chapter 1 itself. I'm gonna take a bit of a pause because I'm testing this new video system. Which I need to make an aside. If you find that the background is changing color or what have you, if it looks really funky, let me know. I purchased a brand new high-def video system, and I'm testing different pieces, and some of which are obviously a little bit more reliable than others. Okay, so I'll be right with you for Chapter 1. Alright. All right, key concepts. Key concepts for Chapter 1, a lot of which are from the Constitution directly, are as follows. I mean, you need to read the materials, obviously. You don't need me droning on and on and on, speaking the words that are right there in front of you. Going to emphasize some of them, obviously, because they're very, very important. And number 2, you'll find them on the quizzes and exams, and hopefully you'll be using them as well on the discussion board to illustrate your points. All right. 2 constitutional concepts that you won't find elicited directly in the Constitution itself: separation of powers and checks and balances. Absolutely brilliant system whereby we've divided the government into 3 basic branches: legislative, executive, judiciary. These branches are separate and distinct, and also serve to check one another's power. The role of each is, I believe, equally important during different periods of history. Obviously, different branches have become have periods of more power, I believe, expanded power, and other times reduced power. But still, the concept of separation of powers and checks and balances is a vital piece of the foundation of the Constitution and the government itself. So, with that, you've also got due process, equal protection, prohibition of cruel and unusual punishment, and first and foremost, you'll find in your text is in Article 1, Section 9 and 10, the prohibition against bills of attainder and ex post facto laws. Say that 5 times fast. So let's dive into bills of attainder. The basic concepts of fairness you can see written into the Constitution. Bills of attainder, what are they? It's essentially the Congress or a legislative body making a punitive action, taking a punitive action via a law or other edict, which punishes an individual without due process of law. Makes sense to us now. It's pretty self-explanatory. But when it was written, it wasn't so uncommon for that type of thing to happen. We weren't too far away from a monarchy which, had the power and ability to punish anybody for anything. So this was a very important, so important, obviously, it appears twice, not once but twice in the Constitution. Likewise, ex post facto laws, which are prohibited by the Constitution, were also mentioned twice. It goes back once again to a basic concept of fairness. You can't punish people for something that they had done in the past if there was no law against it. A great example, would be, drinking alcoholic beverages, legal in the 1920s, illegal in the 1930s. You're not going to go back in time, punish everybody who drank in the 1920s. It makes some modicum of sense, and it should. As you can see in your text, the concept of ex post facto laws really only applies to punitive laws that are criminal in nature. So you can have a civil or administrative law which looks back into the past and alters some kind of policy. The prohibition really applies to, aggravation of a crime, the increasing of a punishment, or the altering of rules of evidence which could make it easier to convict or could allow the government to convict for another crime, you have to do, the legislature is compelled to make laws look into the future, not into the past. So, alright, due process of law. We could talk about this for a couple months. Once again, another key portion of the Constitution, both the 5th and the 14th Amendments, which together have really collaborated to form a phenomenal amount of policy and case law, essentially saying that, at least in the criminal law field, you cannot be punished, you cannot be convicted and punished for a crime without due process. And that includes equal protection. So everyone is treated the same. Due process is a concept which obviously is much more complex than just 2 minutes here of video and the materials that you read. But the main thing that you should take away is there has to be a system by which the process of criminal law is applied equally to all persons, and that rules of fundamental fairness and equality are shared throughout that process for all people. This concept, once again, back when this is written, was fairly novel. You had a very few, if any, democracies which elicited due process of law at that time, and so once again, another major piece of the foundation of the United States of America was right there, put for us. So, also going to mention briefly, under the 8th Amendment, the prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment, another amendment which has produced a tremendous amount of case law over the years. What is cruel? What is unusual? Where is that standard? And once again, we see, a key concept addressed within the Constitution. However, it is a malleable one that has changed over the years to adapt to the different situations that we've bumped into over history. We could have a lively debate on what's cruel and unusual punishment. Of course, the debate that always exists around the death penalty, whether it is cruel and unusual, it goes back and forth. But the concept, when written, once again, was fairly novel. It was and became one of the cornerstones that we still use today. I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper into the concept of due process in the Constitution. Under the 14th Amendment, we have had two doctrines that have developed as a result of the concept of due process. Well, probably more than two, but there are two in your book right there. One, of course, being void for vagueness doctrine, as well as the overbreadth doctrine. Void for vagueness was something that that developed in case law, and the Supreme Court came down and basically said that we need to know, the public needs to know what it is that's prohibited. If a reasonable person cannot know what is prohibited by a law,